Lyrical name that tune. Strung from the moon and the earth your balloon, keeping time for the mother station. If anyone gets this, they get 3,000 something imaginary carrots. Satellite by Dave Matthews,
No.
right? Which, if you know the song at all, there's something about it. It's kind of, who knows exactly what the song's about, but it always feels kind of hopeful to me. You know, it's kind of about the guy's kind of dreaming about the satellite going around the planet. Right. Here's another line, and I'm sorry for the gender bias, but it's one of the opening lines of Waking, which, by the way, I didn't add to this until the very end. It's a quote by Aristotle. Um, dream, hope is the dream of a waking man. Right. So that's Aristotle's actual quote, but of a waking person. Right. Which is kind of cool when you start unpacking it, right? That what would be dreaming while you're awake,
John, would you come here and
right?
help me?
What would it be? And maybe hope would is what kind of, you look at the world and you're not, and beyond the world or something about the
I
world, you
lost
kind of start,
my
uh,
picture.
you actually start, your vision, the hope that we all feel in things, or when we are able to feel in things, is kind of like a dream because it's not quite here yet, right? It's kind of a little bit ethereal, kind of like hope. So I like that line. Hope is, and one of the reasons why I put it on the front of Waking is that, and this is one of my favorite lines ever written about the book by Louis Erdrich, a harrowing story of courage and a primer for joy, right? Which is the best sentence I think has ever been written about Waking. Not a surprise that it came from Louis Erdrich, right? But I kind of did hope that in Waking, you saw the hope of, or the reader could feel the hope of the emptiness that we all carry, let's say, with trauma, loss, and disability. That there's hope in there, but if hope comes too fast, like, oh, it's an opportunity to grow, then you kind of want to throw up in your mouth, right? Because anyone that's actually gone through a whole bunch of hardship, right, doesn't quite feel like hope. And someone that tries to tell me and peddle to me that it's hope before it just absolutely sucks is just full of crap, right? So hope is an interesting sensation. So Laura Hallisey, you're on the call, right? Did I see you somewhere? Did she? So what does hope feel like?
Well, just an just an easy question for one day.
Yeah. Beware, I'm calling on anyone about this one.
What does hope feel like? Possibility?
What does that feel like?
Lightness?
I'm running you right down a very dark corridor where there's no answer, by the way. That's
I
why I had
know,
to
I
pick
know.
on you right away.
I guess it feels lighter. It's not as heavy.
Isn't that the case? Yeah.
Yeah.
What's interesting is I do think that one of the, when I was trying to figure out how the heck to communicate an approach to adaptive yoga that was more universal. If you look at what we did, it's kind of like two different energies. One is like trying to say, well, we translate sensations, but then there's principles of how asana works, right? So you got two different things going in there, which was always kind of I was always asked which is more important. And I'd go in my head, kind of go, well, they're just like from two different universes, right? They're like, there's the sensations of what the principles bring about and stuff. But the insight there is that, and why in the last few years here, I've been talking more about sensations from body to mind that we've got to start recognizing as a culture. And actually, what I've been saying the last few weeks, even about what's going on here in Minnesota, as a culture, we need to start learning more from our bodies about what consciousness is, body to mind processing. So this question that I started with Laura Halsey, and I'm going to keep asking, right? What is one of the ways to study hope is to figure out what it feels like in your body. The problem with calling hope a dream, it kind of locates it in the head a little bit too much. Because really, what's hopeful, there is a lightning, like what Laura's talking about. There's a like, oh, wait. But then if you get too caught up in making your vision or your hope happen, then you're back in the hamster wheel and it's not quite working as fast and whatever. So there's this energy. So one of the things that I also in my approach to trauma for yoga is I started saying, okay, so this is one of my fundamental, believe me, I'm talking about the same stuff from a whole bunch of different directions. When you're trying to help a trauma survivor, right? And maybe let's not say complex trauma because that's a whole different deeper thing. But when you're trying to help a trauma survivor regain trust, right? There's a big tendency, or let's put it this way, there's a big, for good reason, when someone's extremely traumatized, but I don't think it works for everybody, is that to think that agency is the way back to trust, right? That so there's a lot of when someone's first, you're, trying to really empower agency, which is really important when you've been really traumatized. I get why. The problem is agency is pretty cognitive, right? It's like, and so you have a whole bunch in the psychological approach. One of the things I say about trauma is that it's got like at least five different dimensions, and one of the dimensions of the injury is psychological, and you have to work out agency again, right? That is for sure part of the healing. But what about the mind body part? Can you talk someone into trusting the world, by the way? If you say, oh, you're in charge of everything, are they going to trust the world or are they going to know that that's a lie? And right on the edge of their awareness, right as they go to sleep, are they going to shudder with the fact that guess what? There's something right quite out of their fortress of control, right? Like, how do you show somebody how to trust the world? What are the sensations? And part of what I'm trying to say in a lot of my approach to stuff is you've got to show what trust feels like from body to mind before the frontal cortex starts judging. So back to the question of hope. Is anyone like thinking that maybe hope would be a good thing right now without it being um, crap, full of crap and a bypass? Like there's a lot to be discouraged about the world right now, but a hope that's earned is something that's necessary now. Because you can have the vision like a dream of hope, but you end up having to earn hope. It doesn't mean you take the world. Hope doesn't, in my opinion, just mean you take the bleak world and put a gold sticker on it, right? A gold star on it, and you just keep putting a sticker over the top. Hope means you enter the world and you act hopefully. What does that feel like? What does that feel like in a yoga pose? What's the process of allowing the truth and having the dream of a waking person and then acting? So watch your exhale. Keep landing on the earth, in the happening. entering into the complexity of the happening that'll always beyond your mind's reach is truly an act of submission. Knowing that there are parts of the world that are out of your control without becoming disempowered. I hope as some of you are paying attention to your exhale, you're maybe even letting your shoulder blades descend. But I hope you've done enough yoga and it's enough in your body that you're inhaling, your chest is lifting as you're exhaling. Is anyone doing that? Remember all that stuff I say on exhale, you're extending through your spine. Even on the submission, when you're letting the world be true, when you're not trying to influence it, there's the possibility of a very gentle lift of the sternum, an extension of energy into the world while you're dissipating. Doesn't that kind of feel like hope? Even when things are going one way, there's an invitation to another. Hope is an action of a waking person. Lips together, teeth slightly apart. Soften the jaw. Feel the space between your forehead and the skin on your forehead. Relax the tongue to connect the inner ears. Relax the belly to relax the throat. As this happens, you'll find yourself naturally want to exhale. But before you start the inhale, on the exhale, feel that slight lift of the sternum. And then inhale through both nostrils into both lungs. Feel both sitting bones. Feel both feet on the floor on your foot pedals. As you dissipate, you also rise. If you lean your spine into the world. Hope. Let go of your day. Prepare your mind to do yoga. Good. And then if you want to find your midline more, bring your hands into prayer. Do something. Put your hands on each thigh. Do something to find your midline. If your hands are in prayer, I used to say this thing, let your hands be an outer manifestation of a space, an empty space directly behind your sternum. As you bring the heel of your hands together and you press, it actually lifts the sternum slightly. Hope. as you bring your palms together and your fingers together. That happens on an exhale. On your next inhale, broaden the skin on your palms. It'll slightly drop your shoulder blades and lift your sternum. Inhale, call it hope. Can I let the emptiness be strength? Can I give it form? Can I breathe into the strength of what's empty? Call it hope. Good, and then release. The midline actually never leaves you, right? Your mind leaves it, right? But it never leaves you. Call it hope, right? Start to move around a little because everybody wants to. Everyone's getting ants in their pants. Ants in their pants. All right. So we're going from Laura and we're going, it's a feeling of lightness, right? So, but how do you get it into your body, Laura, and not just in your frontal cortex?
It's kind of like an out breath when you feel like you're gonna be like there's hope, you just let go. It just
Oh,
makes you feel lighter.
dang. She's sounding like a wise Irish chick. All right. It's kind of like that surrender thing. You're like I like the
Yeah.
word suspire. You sit down and you finally land and you go, oh, and you're calling that hope.
Yeah, because sometimes you don't feel it first, but then when it creeps in, you think, oh, okay.
Well, part of right after a really good suspire or exhale is the possibility of the thing I'm calling the slight lift. One is for sure at least a precursor of the other, right? That letting it happen. So what if every asana comes out of Shavasana, right? Comes out of that place. What a effing, I almost dropped an F bomb. What an effing joke and what a limitation it is to think I only am if I'm thinking. Ouch. I want the whole universe, not just the universe where I have thoughts. Take your legs wide. Okay, now we're trying to create some lightness like we do every week by just taking up space and moving. So, Amanda, tell me why you like moving fast. I could ask the same of Pat too. When you start to move around, are you having a vision of aerobics girl? Or like why do you move fast rather than slow, especially in the beginning? Amanda, answer that one. Riddle me this.
I suppose because it gives me a little buzz, makes my
Yeah,
feel
kind of
buzzy.
sense of agency. You,
And
you're not having faith that the class is going to move more in a little bit. You're
yeah,
trying to rush it right to the end,
no,
getting the buzz from more movement.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So does that buzz come more from your upper body and then to your lower body? Is that what you're?
yeah.
What about trying to reverse the gears and try to get the buzz to come out of the lower body into the upper body? Not that there's one way that's better than the other, right?
That would
But
take
they're
practice.
they're two different kinds of buzzes, right? It's kind of like if you really want to get a buzz from breath, start to hyperventilate, but try to stop before you're all the way hyperventilated. That's what they call it. They call it something. They call it the breath of fire, right? And it does. It buzzes you right up and floats you right off the planet, and you forget where the earth is, right? But damn it, you feel invigorated. So it's just to remember, now I'm doing all the stuff I teach every week, which is trying to get a separation between my hips and my spine. So I'm pushing on down on one femur bone, up on another, trying to get movement in a place that I don't get enough movement because I'm sitting all the time. So, Amanda, try to do that really fast and see if you get any benefit out of that. Is the benefit now moving to your upper body rather than actually to your hips?
Mm.
You want to be moving at different speeds all through your practice. In the beginning, you probably want to start slower. Not always, but just probably. Now you're coming forward. I'm glad you're smiling as I tease you relentlessly and actually give you a little bit of an adjustment. But some days, try practicing starting fast, right? And see what those practices do. And especially what they do over time, right? I suspect that you might find that starting too fast is a form of violence, but I don't know. You get to discover what it is for you, right? So now as you move slower for a second and you ground, like now I've moved, I got my hips moving and I got some stuff opening, and I take a little pause, my legs are still wide, and I put my hands on top of my knees. Does anybody feel a buzz? Not the quick one though. So if I were like to say the fast moving buzz, if I were to do it on a wave, it'd have more busyness, right? If you're to go on the slow moving one, right, the amplitudes and the drops would be longer and more elongated. And I'm telling you, sometimes, although I'm teasing Amanda relentlessly, sometimes the fast buzz is a good buzz. It's not as simple as either or, right? So I'm going to take up space again. We always do this, right? But I could reach for the sky, or I could touch the sky by grounding my sitting bones, taking my arm back into the shoulder socket, and then extending from the center as I'm going this way and drawing back into my shoulder socket. I take the empty space in the center of my elbow and move it up through my fingertips. But once I go to the center of my elbow, does anyone feel their legs and their base more? Right? There are all these tricks. There are all these things that you learn from practicing. Right? Oh, my God, is this shoulder tight? What the hell? Right? Good gravy. Who left the cobwebs in there? What the hell? So I can't even do the pose the same this way, but I'm going to instruct you like I'm doing it. Like you don't have the same shoulder I have right now. So you're going back towards your shoulder blade, and then when you stretch from the center of your elbow, but keep the shoulder blade back, something even more subtle happens through the buzz. Open the palms. So if you want to screw it up, so Oh my goodness, I don't mean just to pick on Amanda. I really don't mean to. I really don't. She wouldn't even know this would be the same point I'm making the other way. Ooh. Um, if you want to, this whole thing we just did on the first side, if I wanted to bypass the depth of it, I would just try to open my palm and my fingertips too fast. So do that first. Overdo your palm and your, right? Right. And you see how that actually, I'm dropping my arm. I have to redo it to get it better. Like that was just a bypass, right? So now I'm going to do all the things. I'm going to open it up. I'm going to pull back. I'm going to open the center of my armpit, of my elbow pit, open it through the hand, find where my legs are in space. Breathe. Good. And then release. Quite frankly, I would benefit now from starting my practice faster than I am. I'm probably a little bit prone to the slower starts. So now I'm gonna do what Amanda craves, right? I'm gonna come forward. So I got my hands on both of my footrests, so I got myself supported, could be on the table. Whatever you can do to come forward and feel safe, right? And I'm going to start coming forward and lifting my sternum. And I'll do it fast a few times. Here comes the flooding buzz faster, right? I'm going to go back and forth and go, yeah, that's got to be something, right? That's got to be important somehow. Then I'm going to come back and there is that buzz. It feels kind of groovy. Then I put my hands on my knees and take my head back. Change it again. And I'm going to bring my legs together because that's probably tiresome for some people's groins, right? I'm going to find center again. Can there be hope in fatigue? That's harder, isn't it? There's kind of that sense of accomplishment that's kind of like hope at the end of a day well done. Damn, I got a lot done. Maybe that's a little form of hope. Pushing on my knees, grounding my femur bone back into my hip socket, lifting my chest, length hitting down at my outside of my hips while lengthening the side armpit, the side body up to the side armpit, and then adding the underside of each arm. So I'm in a triangle, right? So if my wrists are hitting my knees or my hands are hitting my knees, there's a triangle between my arm and my leg, right? So I'm hitting back, I'm lifting up, and I'm adding the underside of my arms. Good, and then release. Does anyone have the experience? Raise your hand if you do. When you do all this, down, up, whatever, when you push back on your knees and then you add the underside of your arms to the triangle, does anyone feel their legs more? Feel that buzz in your whole body more? Anybody? Yeah? Huh. Doing it again. So now we're going to do all the stuff, back, grounding, up, lift, right? Underside of the arms. Now figure out how to spread your palms without screwing up the underside of your arms, right? Because if you do it too fast, if you have to like spread your palms as an expression of the movement as opposed to a thing you're trying to accomplish. Breathe. At a certain point, right? Hope has to hit action, right? God, I hate all the rights. I'm going to work on that hitch. Hope has to hit action if it's going to stay hope. Put your hands, if you can, palms down, pushing on your femur bones kind of by your knee, right? Push your femur bones away. So you're sliding your rump forward a little bit. And when you do that, there's a natural quick lift of the chest, right? So sometimes you got to slow down certain speeds, right? So before I go, and the place my mind wants to go is to go when I push out on my knees, I kind of want to lift from right here and go back. I want to kind of skip over my torso, right? But I'm going to slow down. And as I pull out on my knees, I'm going to try to feel the front of my hips crease, and I'm going to try to lift my lower abdomen slightly away from that. And then I'm going to lift my chest. Good. And then release. In order to feel the contrast, I'm going to push in on my knees and push back on my knees again. So see how easy it is to cover up part of your potential? Like so that when you your mind wants to lift this chest too quick, right? It wants to get there, wants to turn it into like a dream in the frontal cortex, right? No, it's also earned, right? So now I'm doing it again. I'm grabbing my knees or my legs right here, right? So kind of by my knees, and I'm getting this idea. And if you want to quick wake yourself up, this is what's good about moving fast sometimes, is I'm gonna go back and forth here a little bit, push out on my knees, put it back. So my mind gets more reference. I don't really like that for what I'm teaching, but for some of you, it might wake stuff up a little bit more, right? So now I'm gonna push away, and that's what you want to get your chest wants to go up right away. But I'm trying to go, wait. That's the easy carrot. The harder carrot is to actually get it to make sure as I push away, am I hitting down through my sitting bones? Am I lifting my lower abdomen up? Am I bringing it up through my torso and then lifting my chest? So thus far on this back bend, which by the way end up being quite hopeful, right? It can make you less bluesy, right? Is that right now I'm only teaching on a vertical plane, right? So we're talking about pushing out, we're talking about drawing in, drawing up. You see what I mean by vertical? We're on a vertical plane. That's the easier plane to do, right? For the mind. Horizontal, when you add horizontal to this, right? It's a different thing. It's similar to the difference between in hands and prayer. And you just put your hands together and you put your palms together and you press, and then adding a spreading of the skin adding the horizontal spread of the palms changes everything again, right? So when we're doing this vertical emphasized back bend, there's a whole piece we're not doing yet, which is the horizontal expansion of it, right? Which ironically both opens you and grounds you more than the horizontal, right? More than the vertical. So here we go. Are you following this vertical horizontal distinction? Okay. And it matters in every single pose, every single pose. And one of the places to best affect horizontal extension is from the skin, right? The bones, most of our bones don't go horizontally, they go vertically, right? They go up and down more. There are a couple of them that don't. The sacrum, right? This and the collarbones. So they're a treasure trove, right? So, okay, so now I'm sitting, put my hands, right? And I'm going to push away on my femur bones. I'm going to try to, before I back bend, I'm going to try not to bypass my torso. So I'm doing this out, right? And then opening, right? And I'm not going to rush to my chest. I'm going to make sure it comes through my torso. And as I sit here, right here before I do the back bend, does anyone crave somebody pushing on your sacrum right there? Before you go into the whole back bend, it's like, oh God, if I could just get someone to go on my sacrum. That's what Setu Bandha does, right? Bridge pose. All right. So I'm saying all that because as I'm starting to do this, and before I go to the chest, I'm gonna jump my tailbone up into my body just a little bit because I want that drink of water. I want that grape, right? So I'm gonna push away, right? I'm gonna get it into my torso before I go to my chest. Right here, before I start opening my chest too much, I'm gonna get that little leap. And that little leap is gonna help me go into my chest. And then as I go into my chest and lift my chest, I'm going to open like this on my chest, right? I open, my head goes back. Good. And then release. Bethany, are you here
Yep,
or are you Memorex?
I'm real.
Okay, so what I would like you to do would be to get a picture of ready of Urvadanurasana, where you can imagine someone in a second me wanting to go on someone's tailbone and maybe get not a great one. Don't get the dudes Urvadanurasana. There's nothing to adjust on a pose like that. So,
Hmm.
all right. So, so so it turns out we're going to do the back bend again. We're going to go through it. We're still pursuing the way that body keeps adding to the sensation of hope. We're doing it through back bends. Okay. That little extra thing you cover up, and it doesn't, when you get a little bit of what's covered up, it doesn't take a lot to spring hope, right? All right. So, I haven't even been paying attention to time at all. Okay.
And I've got it whenever you want.
Yeah. Okay. So here we go again. Pulling out. Ironically, as my finger bones go out, I end up wanting to take my where the lotus flower is below the belly button and above the pubic bone. That actually has to go back. It's a bond. Don't tell anybody. Don't tell. Right? That goes back. And as soon as this goes out and something draws back, it changes the energy of your shoulder blades. Right? Okay, what the hell? Right? So now I'm going up and I'm making sure my torso goes in, right? And I'm going to go up. And the last time I said, then at the end, you open the front of your chest. So that's the sunshine part of the back bend, right? And then release. There's a hidden backside to backbends. There's the underneath part, the part that your will doesn't know how to receive. Because when you're trying to do it all, you're kind of in the frontal cortex part of your consciousness and you're trying to do it on, you're trying to get there and you're trying to do it right. And then there's a whole level of freedom that comes from the emptiness that you kind of don't know about. And it's from the backside. So we're going to do the pose one more time. And then Bethany, after that, I'm going to show the picture, right? So what I want to get, so when you're doing this thing and getting the depth of it, and then you're opening up this way, and I'm telling you to broaden across your collarbones, one of your horizontal bones, right? Right. I'm going to start instructing the back side of the front side. So there's hidden hope coming into your pose, right? All right, so I'm grounding my hands, I'm pushing my finger bone away, I'm drawing my lower abdomen slightly back, I'm opening, I'm ready to burst my shoulder blades open. But as I do that, I want to spread the space between the shoulder blades, a instruction I give you all the time because I've been instructing the moon side. So you got the back side of your shoulder blade spreading, the collarbone spreading, right? And you go back and over. And then release, come forward. There's another level of this. So does anyone get when you add the backside of the shoulder blades to the collarbones opening, is anyone being able to feel the difference between the two and how they support each other? You're with me, right? Nod your head, please. Right? Okay. The other backside is broadening across your sacrum. What's hard is that if you broaden it too willfully, that's not quite it. It's more like somebody needs to show you where your sacrum is, and the energy just needs to flood across the sacrum, right? It needs to go, oh, it comes from surrender. It's not something I get to do harder, right? It's something I have to receive. Okay, so we're going to try to, so let me show you the picture now. Okay, whose pose is that? Is that Lois Steinberg?
I don't know.
Okay. I don't think so. I want to criticize it, but it might be a really good one. Okay, so
I have a
so
different one if you prefer.
no, no, it's good. So the places if you're helping someone do this, right? Like Bethany, you have your cursor, right?
Yep.
Point the obvious place is that if you point right between the shoulder blades, now, right, and you just go right in there, a little bit lower toward your tailbone. Yeah. So I don't know if you can see my picture anymore, but if you don't even have to do much. You could pull really hard there and that'd be the physical point. But if I were helping, because I can't get leverage, I would just touch very lightly behind your sternum, and they have the surrendering feeling between the shoulder blades, and her pose would go up. You could also pull a belt and pull her way open and show that her muscles have way more space. You could make it physically dramatic. The other place, and if you can do it simultaneously, is right at her tailbone, and you draw a diagonal vector up like that. A really wonderful physical adjustment is to put a belt, go back between the shoulder blades, Bethany. You have two people adjust this with belts. You have one person standing, go up to where the person would be standing with the belt with the cursor, would be standing there having a belt around that part of the back. And then you'd have someone with a belt over the sacrum there, and they'd be standing up here, stand where they'd be standing, and they'd pull at the same time. And what you'd find out is that what's holding you back is not flexibility in your body. What's holding you back is your inability to utilize your muscles in relationship to potential opening. Right? So when someone gets this adjustment in this pose, they feel like they've seen God, right? Because they're like, oh my God, I had no idea that was in me, right? Because their will cannot get them there. And then come out of the picture, unshare your screen, right? Your will doesn't get to get you there. That's why I was able to adjust these traditional poses without having to be so dramatic with belts. I would just show them by touching a finger on their tailbone or a finger between their shoulder blades. I would show them from Savasana that there was potential in the pose, right? That there was like, oh, you're trying way too hard. I teach all of you way more from Shavasana than I do from effort. Because energetic realization, there's a principle that I try to teach other yoga teachers to pass on, is that the subtle body can never be asserted, it must be received. So too with the bandhas, right? And so now we're back to our pose, and I'm trying to show you that we don't get a chance to do it as much physically. But because of that, in some ways, the realization we have to foster is more pure. It's not caught up with the ability to, I'm going to win, I'm going to win, I'm going to win. So a traditional student, if they're lucky, can do this pose 500 times and get better just by sure rote. But so what I asked a very advanced practitioner one time about the tailbone, trying to open the tailbone. Bethany, were you with William when I asked this question with me?
I think
Yeah. And he said, it took him a while to figure out that I wasn't trying to be super smart with my questions. I was just trying to like figure out prana. But he said something that was really curious to me. I thought was great, meaning that we're on the same page. He said, with that tailbone thing, he said, you can't do that. You have to show up there, I would say, as the pure observer. And if you show up there enough times, prana will show you how to do it. It'll just kind of fill it in. And this is where the line that I try to teach in trainings, prana follows consciousness. Don't confuse consciousness with mental awareness. Consciousness is becoming an observer of the happening without judgment. I'm asking you to learn how to do that when I'm asking you to jump with your tailbone and feel stuff with your tailbone. So now we're in a level of instruction that I want to get, might have sound superficial. When I'm saying getting to your sacrum, it's easier to get to where you can control easier and that's the space between your shoulder blades. So that support of your shoulder blades, and then when you spread in the shoulder blades, then when you lift on your collarbones, if you just lift on your collarbones, just go to neutral and lift quickly under your collarbones, move too fast. Amanda, Amanda, Amanda. If you move too fast, right? It's not wrong. But now release and broaden between the shoulder blades and then lift your collarbone. Feel the difference? Anybody? Will you nod, Amanda? Right? Yeah. You unwilling to grant me my point, right? That's different. Now the sacrum, I went through all that picture to show you doing this with across the sacrum in a back bend, really effing hard. And it's not hard for your will. It's hard to trust, right? So this bounciness that I'm going to try to recreate in my own tailbone right now by putting my hand behind and bouncing it forward. I'm going to go, I'm going to call that hope, right? I'm going to call that little bounce, even though when I'm in this pose, I'm not going to get this little bounce. Hey, I'm going to go fast there, Amanda, right there. Because when I bounce my tailbone up, I can feel the buzz, right? And I'm going to need the buzz in just a little bit. I'm going to need trusting that there's something there. When I try to broaden across my sacrum while broadening between my shoulder blades, while opening the front part of my hip flexors, while opening under my collarbones as part of the back bend. All right. Good gravy. So one of the reasons I'm talking this much, if we did like 10 of these in a row, you'd all have to sleep for a week, right? This is hard stuff we're doing here. We're going to go through the whole sequence now. I'm going to sit. By the way, I'm just going to touch Tadasana quick by putting pressure on the outside of my femur bones. So I can feel the corridor, the midline that never leaves me, but I leave it, right? I'm going to feel that because this corridor is trying to open. That's the vertical teaching I was doing. We're trying to figure out stuff to make it broadening and horizontal while it remains vertical. So I'm going to bring this in, and from an inward position, I'm going to put my hands on above my knees, and I'm going to push away, right? I'm going to not lift my chest too fast. I'm going to get my abdomen in, right? I'm going to go and open, right? And I'm going to know right here, I'm going to pop my tailbone. I'm going to feel Setu Bandha, right? I'm going to feel shoulder stand. I'm going to feel a whole bunch of stuff, right? Then I'm going to go back and over the back of my chair. I'm going to broad between the shoulder blades, the front of the collarbones. Oh, wait, out of order, stop. I screwed up. Got to do the sacrum before the collarbones, right? Do it again. Bad teacher, right? Hands together, pulling it out, making the space, popping my tailbone, right? Now, as I'm doing this, if I broaden across my sacrum, if I feel that pop of the tailbone, not just as a pop of the tailbone, but a broadening, then I go open, I catch, and as I lift my collarbones, I broaden the space between the backs, and I have to keep working to go popping my tailbone and broadening the whole time. Good, and then release. And William's insight is that that's so complicated, your mind can't do it. But if you show up and you show up, it starts to happen. The metaphor I put in my book was the body is like a form, like you're making a form, like you digging a well. And if you use your body to dig a well, prana will always fill it in. So if you go there enough times, prana will fill it in the way the earth fills a well, right? And you don't have to be in charge of it. So the energy that fills in without me having to be in charge of it with my frontal cortex, let's call that hope. All right. One more pose or three more. Vertical extension, pull back, tailbone happiness, broaden. As soon as I broaden across the sacrum, it starts to broaden across my front of my shoulder blades, but I'm going to broaden the backside too, shoulder blades, up, back, and over my chair. Then as I'm here, I'm going to think of that thing that Bethany showed us and the pressure on the sacrum, on the tailbone, and between the shoulder blades. And I'm going to keep receiving that reference. Good. And then slowly uncoil. I don't know where this comes from, but ooh la la, papa. Where does that come from? That was a big backbend for me. Maybe it wasn't for you. If it wasn't for you, go to hell. We set up the whole class for that goddamn pose. Right? I don't mean that, but now we got to twist a little bit. Inhale up, exhale across. I learned something about twists this morning. It blew my mind. I can't share it yet because it has to do a lot with my body, not yours. Right? Inhale, lift up. Exhale, revolve. So as I'm doing now, can you see here? You want to broaden across your collarbone. Can you see here? You want to release across your sacrum. So we're doing those actions and we're twisting. We're wringing out the overwork. You know when you inhale, right? You have a diaphragm that's across your lower abdomen, diaphragm across your middle back, and a diaphragm across your collarbone. This whole class is been about breathing, prana. Good, and then release. But not inhalation and exhalation breathing. Breathing prana through the body. Calling it hope. Other side. Across. Which Laura calls lightness. Abso-fucking-lutely. Right? It is exactly lightness, right? So now inhale, lift up, exhale, revolve, but don't forget the whole class in this twist. Release across the sacrum. Let it drop your groin, your inner groin. Lift up through the core, broaden between the shoulder blades, and lift under the collarbones. Inhale, lift up, exhale, revolve. Good, and then come on back to center. Forward. Right hand, grab the left knee. Left hand on the thigh. Right? Real gentle now. Inhale, lift up. Exhale, revolve. I just had a weird image of like a alligator, a crocodile rolling itself and turning its belly towards the sun. You're on the surface of the water and you're just rotating up. Breathe. You're doing it gentle though, the way a fish like that would roll and would roll on water, right? Forward again, forearm down, bone to bone, grab the knee, place the other hand, come forward, and then gently, like you're rolling on water, roll the belly towards the ceiling, towards the sun. Good, and then come on back. Be in the center. Lean forward. Lengthen your back. Hit down through your sitting bones. Don't back bend. Chin down. Sitting bones. Drop the shoulder blades. Spread the space between the shoulder blades, but lengthen the neck off the top of your head. As you do, it should create a buzz in your legs. What? Yep. That's what happens. Good. And then release. And then Savasana. Land in your chair. Land in your chair. Is that a frontal cortex action? Is that a physical action? What does the frontal cortex have to do or not do in order to land in your chair? Maybe that energy makes you want to put your lips together, teeth slightly apart. Maybe you forgot to follow through. Maybe you can feel the skin, the space between your forehead and the skin on your forehead. Relax around the temples, the jaw, the inside of the mouth. Maybe poses are just about congruence with what's already here. So in Shavasana, just for a second, I'm going to wave at my jumping tailbone. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to know it's right there. And then fully land in my chair. Oof. Feel your breath. Don't change it. The process of coming back is hopeful. Gradually increase your breath. Slightly deeper, longer inhalation, slightly deeper or longer exhalation. When you're ready, open your eyes. I think that hope is an energy that's simultaneous with everything that's happening. Right? It's, and then only the work is your privilege, to quote chapter 2 of the Bhagavad Gita, right? Hands together. Namaste. The spirit in me bows the spirit in you.